Hello everyone. Today I am going to talk about mid-tier characters in this game. And personally, there's a lot of mid-tiers in this game. Not because it means that these characters are bad. They're not. They're really not. I just find the other characters to have a bit of a more brokenness to them and a more unfairness to them. So if you thought these characters are good, wait until you see the ones from the other tiers coming up. In these two tiers, we have characters that have a projectile, who have a strong gimmick, or simply well-rounded or just good. This character just barely managed to get into the lower mid-tier section. They could be in the No Gun Club, or they could be in the low tier section. And maybe this is just my weird perception of this character. I don't know what I was thinking of rating this character a lot higher at one point. It's Tano. Yes, Tano doesn't really have that much going for him. He only has 4 moves. He has 4 things he could do. He could block, he could ground pound, he has a range attack, and then he has a melee attack. That's it. It's very small and not very versatile. This character is not a character that should be that impressive, especially compared to some of the characters I mentioned previously. The reason why he's this high, even though he's simple and basic, I mean, look at his melee attack. He has a dash attack, just like the Lone Ranger. Even though he has health regeneration from his blocking, which is a lot of the characters I mentioned in the No Gun Club, Tano also has a projectile, even though it's very below average at best. It's still a projectile, and surprisingly, it can't go through the lightsaber characters, as they are not able to block them, and the lightsaber characters are really good, or at least have something broken to them compared to a lot of the characters below. And although Obi-Wan is a character with lightsaber that I rate low, even though a lot of characters in this game have projectiles, lightsaber characters are able to block a lot of these attacks with their lightsaber and sometimes have it bounce right back to them. But in Tano's case, he's able to get away with that. So his projectile has some usage beyond just throwing an axe constantly, and he also has health regeneration. Even though he's not an amazing character, especially compared to characters I mentioned below him, he has enough to get away with lasting a fight for a good amount of time. And he does have a projectile that could help deal with characters from far away, even though it doesn't reach fast, it doesn't come out that quick, but it does do enough for me to somehow put him in this tier. Here's a character that also has a lot of things lacking, but moveset wise has a lot more going on. This is Alice. Alice is a character who has very unique moves and very interesting timings to them. Her melee attacks are slow. I at least like the way they designed the moves. She has 2 versions of her special that she can do, which she can turn small and fight, even though that leaves her significantly vulnerable. If you're not close, if you're not inches away from your opponent, you are going to get hit before you hit them, as you can throw out your range attack while you're on your special. Even though you're small, you would think that it'll be much harder to hit. You still have a hitbox. Their proportion is small, but you're still able to hit them fine in this game. So yes, turning small leaves you pretty vulnerable, and unless your opponent's clearly not looking at what's going on or can't see in front of them, then you might be able to get away with it. You also have the other part of the special, which turns her gigantic, which is similar to Ant-Man's. I think Ant-Man's is better personally because Alice kind of slowly walks like a giant, while Ant-Man just dun 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 dun. Alice stomps around, and then she turns back into normal. That's pretty much her specials. They're pretty cool the way they designed this character. And let's not forget about her range attack, which is the reason why she's up here. It can be very annoying for certain matchups. However, you can simply block it and you won't be able to get hit by it. There's counterplay to this move, but if you're not able to counterplay it simply by blocking, if you're in the air and she hits you, it could honestly be very effective to her game plan. That's the only reason why she's, I would say, better than Tano, and up here is because range attack is still a lot better than a lot of the characters below, and would be the reason why she would have any chance compared to all the other characters below, realistically. She has a floating super jump, which it's cute, but she is no Peach. She isn't as strong as Peach. You look at her frame there on her melee attacks. They're easy to avoid. You're not going to get the full hits, especially in midair. Even the midair combos are slow. This character doesn't really have that much going for it in a player versus player setting. But you know what? This character was designed with a lot of heart, at least. So I'll give the character some credit. Literally, the range attack is the reason why this character is better than Tano, I would say. Even though this character has a lot of moveset compared to Tano, it's still not enough for me to really put this character higher than this. Next up is Door. This character seems to have everything, and yet I think so little of him. At one point I thought he was in the low tier or in the no gun club. But the fact that he could fly, I have to put him this high. He's the first character I mentioned so far that's a flying character, and that's good. That's usable for running away from matches. That's good for gaining the advantage on certain characters below. In terms of the character, this character has everything to be usable. The character can use all of his moves, they work fine. The other characters I mentioned also have usable moves. The problem though is Door's moves are usable but are not all good. But they should be good enough to be higher, right? I mean, some of the characters I rate above obviously have some atrocious moves for player versus player settings. But the reason why Door's this low, because I believe people would think this character would be higher. Door's damage output, even though you could scale him with the skill tree to be even stronger, I do not think this character is very strong, even regardless of doing that. He's just very vulnerable, I would say, of being in disadvantage, even though he has a strong advantage. It doesn't make sense why he's this bad, but he is. He has his projectile, which is the best thing about him. When his melee attack after the second hit is slow, how can you combo? Well, his projectile, which is his hammer, could combo. If you throw the hammer at your opponent, or if you just throw it somewhere else and it comes back and hits them, if it doesn't respond right away, then you're able to combo quickly from your melee attacks and into the hammer. His hammer is good for following up if you set it up right. The hammer's very versatile, even though it doesn't do a lot of damage, and even when you charge it up, it does take a while for it to fully charge. This character's projectile is versatile. It's not broken though, even though it's extremely good for Door. The projectile isn't very broken, I would say. There's definitely counterplay, and that's the reason why this character is not as good as you would think. His ground pound literally sends lightning on the opponent. His special is slow and easy to avoid. At least it's strong, I guess. Well, not that strong, but compared to other flimsy specials, some that are unusable, by the way. His counter moves are strong, at least. Overall, this character has everything to be usable. The only problem is the damage output I do not find impressive, and I think it gets very easily affected by the shooting projectile characters. Even though they're not impressive compared to Thor, their projectile just simply outplays the character. If he had more power and quicker moves, in fact, if his melee attacks on the regular were quicker, and melee attacks after throwing the hammer were even quicker than that, then I could see this character being a lot better, especially if they all do a lot more damage than I personally seen from the character. You're able to have enough room to skill tree this character. There's definitely ways you could go with the character that is fair, but a lot of characters who are not good have this thing going for them. Overall, this character, even though they made him exactly how you would think Thor should be in a game, it's surprisingly lacking. Next up is Poe Dameron. This character has a projectile, and in mid-air, if your opponent's in mid-air, he could easily shoot you down and you're stunned up there and you can't really move unless you constantly spam jump, or you jump at the right time when the bullet's not hitting you. That's the reason why he's better than Thor. Thor doesn't really have that brokenness about a projectile as Poe Dameron's. Even though it's very basic, it's very effective. His melee attacks are also kinda quick. They don't do a lot of damage, but hey. And his special is completely useless against player versus player. This character doesn't have that much broken except the effectiveness of his projectile. And that's about it. Next up is Ronan. He looks powerful at least, even though some of his melee attacks and counter attacks do not connect properly. Wow, that's sad. At least his projectile, even though it's not as good as Poe's move, I would say it at least can stun them in midair. It does have some benefits if he charges it up, as it does charge up pretty quick. His projectile's the only reason why he's better than Poe, I would say, even though I would say Poe's is simply better at stunning characters in midair. Ronan has two usages that is very similar to that. His special is pretty bad for player versus player, turns him invisible. Wow, I could still see you, buddy. His moves take a long time to come out for his melee attacks. Honestly, his projectile is the reason why he's higher than some of the characters like Thor and Poe. Next up is Princess Leia. She has a lot more going on for her, but that player versus player special is not good. It is completely bad unless you want R2-D2 to blow you up at the last second that they're on screen. Then I guess it is usable for that one thing. Her melee attacks are quick, they don't do a lot of damage, but at least she's able to combo good with them. Her range attack is alright. It's a simple range attack that has a little bit of stun here and there. Not as good as the other range attacks we've talked about so far. She does have a gun though, and she can charge up the gun if she wants to. I'm not very impressed by this character, but she obviously has a lot more going on for her than some of the characters I mentioned so far. She also has a pretty strong ability, although it's very easy to get out with the amount of mashing you could do. If you do a full melee set with this character, you get the Ewoks attacking you, and even if you break out of it, they still can end up attacking you. There's some useful things that Princess Leia has. Overall, I wouldn't say it's enough to put this character higher than this. At least the character has some more versatile things while also being very okay at best. Next up is Sam Flynn. All of his moves are usable. At least I could say that compared to Princess Leia. Even though Sam Flynn has all his moves to be usable, he's very basic. He's still cool based off his design from the Tron games. But as a fighter, he's not very interesting or impressive. His range attack is that disc that he throws from his back. I honestly wish that he was able to combo off of it instead of just throwing it constantly back at the opponent. The melee attack is very average at speed. at least the character could combo with it okay, I guess. And the special is alright if the opponent decides to get hit by it. Also, this character has a super jump. I think Princess Leia might have a super jump, I'm not sure. Rona has a super jump, so who cares if these characters have a super jump? At least they have something add to them. I would tell you that super jump would only take you so far in a tier list, and super jumps are not winning games. Unless you're bad in this game, there's no reason why a super jump would help you boost up the tier compared to some of the characters below. Next up is Donald Duck. This guy gets mad whenever he attacks. Damage wise is not that great, but it's Donald Duck. I mean, he could throw items, he has a little super jump, his melee attacks are somewhat quicker than some melee attacks I mentioned so far, and his special can also be usable if your opponent doesn't have a projectile or can't react to him using it, although you can intercept him by hitting him before he hits you with a projectile or something else. The reason why he's better than these other characters I mentioned so far is because all of his moves are usable and are effective on player versus player combat. However, there's simply better, more broken characters. Everything I mentioned about him won't carry him, but they could have made him a lot worse if they wanted to, so at least Donald has everything to be a better character than a lot of the other characters that should be better but are simply not. Next up is Barbossa. Barbossa has useful things about him just like Donald. The reason why I put him above Donald though, Barbossa has his sword that he could use to block certain projectiles, similar to the lightsaber. And even though his flintlock gun can be very easy to avoid, his flintlock gun does stun characters if he was able to hit them. And his melee attacks are usable. They're not amazing, but they do come out alright. He also has a little counter to him, which some of the 1.0 characters do not have. They can only ground pound in order to take away blocks. So this character does have some usable things and has some things that would negate certain projectile characters in this game. Next up is Sabine. Sabine is very cool in this game. Her melee attacks are what I would say are the only thing that I am not very impressed by, simply because they don't come out as quick compared to some other agile characters in this game. But her melee attacks still come out at a quick enough rate where she could combo if she times her attacks right. Her guns can also stun at certain periods of the time, and in the air, her guns could stun for a very long time. Sabine's attacks are all usable. She could super jump. Her melee attacks are quick enough compared to some of the characters I mentioned before, and she's agile with them, so that's good. She is agile with her movement. Her special be very usable unless your opponent's a flying character or has quick reaction time, which is not going to be as effective or good. Sabine has a move where if she throws a paint mine, she could detonate whenever she wants after she throws at a specific part of the stage. However, if a stage is pretty big, it's going to be extremely hard to land this move when your opponent has to be exactly landing at the right time. And it does have a little bit of a color to it where you could see the area. You could probably push them where they land there if you throw a projectile or just simply hit them where they land there. At least her move can be usable, it's just not as usable as broken specials are in this game. Sabine's the type of character where she can be very effective if you are able to use all of her attacks correctly. If you understand how her gameplay is, she takes a lot more skill compared to a lot of characters in this game. Her game plan is not as basic as you would think. She's still has some broken stuff, and that's the reason why she's up this high compared to Barbossa. Even though Sabine has counterplay to her, from her guns to her melee attacks and that special, she has a better chance compared to the characters I mentioned so far in this list. Here's a character that has everything, it seems, except that skill tree is what keeps this character down below. I would say this character has everything about him to be usable and useful, but wow, can't seem to keep this character up alive with that low amount of health. Even if you were to have him with a lot more health than I did, this character needs to be skilled up in a way where they're effective, but they're also long lasting. This skill tree just simply does not have it where you could have that. Oh, I scaled him up where he has a lot of health, but now he can't do his melee attacks anymore. Those melee attacks are the weakest part of the character. But now that I scaled up the other stuff, melee attacks are less versatile as they were before. I didn't give Yanyu a special. Now Yanyu has a very broken move out of their moveset. Oh, I didn't spend enough on the range attack. Now the character is going to struggle up close against projectile characters. There's not really a way for him to have his versatility as he does the way I scaled him, without him having to take away something from him. This character is simply a lot worse than he should be, because he does have everything. Like I said before, just like Sabine, Yanyu has a super jump, ground pound is pretty cool. This character has a cool moveset. The problem is they aren't able to use that moveset for a long period of time, at least the way I scaled them up. And let's say you were to give them maximum health, their stuff would complete the character. Whatever way you want to, this character would still be in this spot. The range attack is great, even though it does worse damage when you charge the range attack. So maybe you could honestly avoid spending so much on the charge range attack, but then if you charge the range attack, you could easily set up for the regular range attack of the arrows. And that special, it does a lot of damage. Even though the special doesn't stun them afterwards, leaving you somewhat vulnerable if they decide to hit you immediately after using the move. It seems as if this character was designed, he can be good, he also dies like a complete loser if you get hit just only a few times. Star-Lord has a super jump. He has quick melee attacks, but they don't do a lot of damage. His counter's alright, as it stuns the character and immediately can follow up into a follow-up attack. Pretty good for him, and it's very strong. His guns don't stun on the ground and don't stun in the air, which is a big deal compared to the other characters who can. Overall, that's the reason why Star-Lord's probably not better than this. All of his moves can be useful, except he doesn't have the brokenness that some of the characters I mentioned before have, such as the stunning projectile. However, his special is versatile. It's super versatile. He could take on a lot of damage if you and the special were to shoot at your opponent at the same time. Even if your opponent is able to break that machine, you could still take some damage while they're doing that, as they have you to worry about as well. Or you could combo while the specials in usage, which also could be very usable for him as well. Overall, he has everything good about him. There's simply better characters though, and what hurts this character is his projectiles not stunning in the ground and in the air. Next up is Black Widow. Black Widow is very good everywhere, except her special is complete garbage among player versus player. It literally turns her visible just like Ronan, and you could see the outline. Though the only thing I would say that's better compared to Ronan's special is you see this
blue outline of where they were initially when they used the special. Even though they'll realize that's not you, they'll at least take a second to see that that's not you, compared to Ronin's at least. Black Widow has quick projectiles similar to Star-Lord's, but Black Widow's can stun in the air though. Melee attacks are quick and are really good up close. She also has her counter, which is also good up close, and her counter follow-up attack. She also has a super jump, and she has a shield. If it wasn't for the special, I could see this character being higher than this. The only thing that I would say, other than having a better special for her, if her guns were able to stun in the ground. Otherwise, she has a lot good going for her if the negatives weren't there. Next up is Captain Jack Sparrow. Very similar to Barbossa, except his gun comes out quicker, and I might be wrong, but I think his sword melee attacks come out quicker. Other than that, this character is exactly how Barbossa is. And because Captain Jack Sparrow is a better Barbossa, and Barbossa was already a good character, I have to put this character a couple spots higher, as he has a lot of things that are good against a lot of the broken characters, or characters that have projectiles. Next up is Rey. Rey is so good up close. Her melee attacks are so good. She has a super jump. She has a gun that stuns in the air. Her gun's alright up close, but the fact that her gun can stun up in the air is what helps this character and puts this character higher than some of the characters I had below. Her special is mostly a power-up special where it helps Rey do more damage on her attacks, and that's pretty much the character. Overall, she's really good, and all of her moves are usable and useful. Next up is Ezra Bridger. The way I scaled up this character, he seems to be another character where he has a lot of tools, except you can't have everything that this character has to offer, and then you get an unbalanced skill tree. I have everything equipped to him, except he has a very low health, and though I could add in some health to him if I wanted to, again, he's one of those characters that if you skill him up optimizely, there's always going to be something that he's going to lack completely. But he's still a Star Wars character with a lightsaber. He has a projectile. He has a slow melee attacks and a slow dodge. His special is usable when you're facing directly at your opponent, because you could do multiple if you have multiple in your skill tree available. However, it's not an incredible special. It doesn't do a lot of good damage. I find it to be the weirdest specials in the game to really know if it's good or it's bad. Anyways, this character, like I said before, has some useful traits that a character in this game would really benefit from. A projectile and a lightsaber. Overall, he's still a character that lacks, even though he does have some strong moves here and there. The reason why he's up here is literally because of his lightsaber. Next up is Mickey. Mickey has a lot of better things than Donald. His special's better, even though it takes a longer time to come out. It does a lot more damage, incredibly high amount, as it could take away a lot of your health, especially if you can't escape by mashing out of it. Mickey also has a move that pulls you in. I believe he's the first character I mentioned so far that has that, as his fishing rod pulls characters in that are close enough to him. He has a super jump, just like Ezra. His melee attacks are okay, and his range attack is similar to Donald's, as he throws multiple objects, and when he holds the charged attack, he can throw heavier objects. Overall, he's simply better than Donald and the other characters above because he could pull opponents that are close enough to him, and because of his very powerful special, especially if you are able to land it. Next up is Kanan. Similar to Ezra, except his projectile is a gun, and he has a lot better of a skill tree to balance himself out. He has a lot more health compared to Ezra, and his special is a power-up. Overall, he has the same pluses as Ezra, except his projectile is different, but it's also not bad, it does the job fine. He also has his lightsaber, the super jump, he also has a force push, I believe, and so does Ezra. Kanan's melee attacks are also a bit quicker than Ezra's. So far, Kanan has everything that would pretty much combat most of the characters in this tier. Next up is Wreck-It Ralph. This character seems like he would be bad. I mean, look at his projectile. This character cannot rely on anything to get close to him except for his rolls, super jump, which is very high to be fair, and his range attack, that's Vanellope's range attack. However, the reason why this character is up here despite a lack of good projectile and approach game is because Wreck-It Ralph is simply a strong gimmick character, as two of his moves not only set up for chain grabs, but he can kill without needing the use of a chain grab. And that's thanks to his melee attack. The move can be good enough where it could be comboed consistently and it could possibly kill at maximum health. Overall, you're not going to get much out of him in the approach game, but he does have tools that can somehow negate that compared to other characters who have a worse approach game than him. In terms of moveset, his moveset is completely overall worse than a lot of these characters I mentioned so far. He would honestly be one of the characters that you could see in the No Gun Club. However, his brokenness about him is what keeps him this high, I would say. And even though he can't be walled out by projectiles significantly, just like a lot of the other characters who don't have that great of a projectile, if his super jump wasn't as high and he didn't have a straight up oppressive strength to him, then his whole game plan would be a whole lot more vulnerable. Next up is Korra. Korra simply has better mobility than Wreck-It Ralph, as Korra's web swing helps her move incredibly well, and the first character we mentioned so far with this type of swing animation, there will be at least 3 more characters with this type of swing. So she could super jump and she could do the swing. She definitely has a lot of mobility to her thanks to that. Her combo game is also fine, although her range attack isn't a shooting projectile, which means that the projectile itself is not as all great amongst everything that you would want from a character. Even though the range attack doesn't cover all options, as there's definitely counterplay to it, the shooting projectiles or other broken projectiles are much better. The range attack can still be good for comboing, good for taking out damage, and setting up for her melee attacks. Her special's not a power-up one, and overall her whole moveset seems to be alright, especially thanks to her mobility. That's the reason why I would say she's this good. Next up is Nemo. It's hard to think how good the fish characters are in this game. Seem to be good on paper, but then again, it's so easy to overestimate some of these characters. Nemo seems to have what it takes to be a broken character. The way his character moves is harder to combo, it seems, compared to other characters in this game. His melee attacks are not that great. They do a good damage upon hit though. Nemo has a super jump. They have a very aquatic ground pound to them. What really carries this character from lack of great moves has to be their range attack. That move is very annoying, especially if you are a character that cannot deal with it properly, as the character can stun you in mid-air, they could set up for multiple strings of it if they time it right. It's literally the range attack, and that special is very easy to avoid, especially if you're a fast character or a character that can fly. Any character that can avoid that bubble. If it wasn't for that range attack, this character would be way lower. But there's something about that fish's projectile that makes me think very highly of the character, despite the flaws that this character might have. Next up is Mad Hatter. Mad Hatter has a lot of great moves compared to a lot of moves that these other characters have. He has a move that pulls people in. His range attack is very useful, charged or not charged. He has a super jump. His combos are also okay in terms of speed. Not very good on damage though. Even though his special doesn't do a lot of damage, it does stun you, which is good. That means you're likely to get consistently hit by a lot of the attack. Overall, he does have some good things about him, but he is definitely beatable, especially if there's other characters who have similar or more broken things that can negate this character. Speaking about character who has a lot of great things about them, but there's simply more broken characters that can negate this character, and that's Loki. He's a character that can fly. His range attack is good when it's fully charged, and it comes out at a quick enough speed when fully charged. His normal range attack is not very strong, but it's alright. His combo game is a lot better than Rowan's at least. His moves are at least cool. His character is very cool. He overall does have a strong combo game even though it's not the quickest. And his special is also very versatile. As it's similar to Nick Fury's, I would say Loki's is better because it has a better powerful ending to it that could kill your character a lot better than Nick Fury's. Overall, Loki does have a lot of great things and all of his moves are useful. The only thing that I would say what keeps his character down is the fact that he's the only character in this game that could fly, but he could only hover, which honestly hurts him. Next up is Han Solo. The reason why he's really high up this tier list is because this character has so much usage with his projectiles. He has a fast range attack. Even though he can't charge the range attack, it's still a pretty good range attack. His melee attacks are they're not very strong and they don't come out that quick, but they're not bad. His special could honestly kill people at really high health if you max it out. It also stuns your opponent. Even if you don't have a lot of the special in stock, you could use one and you could get so much off of it because of how it stuns your opponent after it hits you. If it wasn't for his gun and his special gun, he wouldn't be this high. But yes, his gun could stun him midair, and he has a little super jump. I mean, what else his character would really need other than some more brokenness? Next up is Darth Maul. Darth Maul has a lot of cool moves. I love a lot of his melee attacks. His range attack is good for mobility, not very good for damage, though you can lead certain attacks from it very well. And his special has two usages that can be useful, but do take some time setting up. He also has a force push. The reason why this character is up this high is because he has lightsabers, and sometimes that's good enough to put you up this high. Overall, his damage output isn't the best and his moves don't come out quick enough, unlike Ahsoka Tano's, which I believe is the best out of the group of characters we talked about so far. The character has fast melee attacks. Even though her range attack's good for mobility, it's good for setting up for quick combos. Just like Darth Maul, she has force jump and a force push, and her special has 2 usages that are alright if you could set them up properly. Although the charging special I would say is a lot better. What really keeps this character up is her lightsabers and her fast melee attacks, as she's very good at attacking up close. The problem is though, she's simply a character that, even though she has everything good to her, as she has good mobility, she has great attacks up close, she simply doesn't have the brokenness that a lot of other characters from the other tiers have. Next up is Darth Vader. The reason why I would say he's at least better than some of the characters below, even though some of the characters below have this ability, having this ability does benefit him, and that's the force pull. If he didn't have the force pull, his slow melee attacks and his slow movement in general would not be in great usage. But the force pull is what helps his character's lack of speed overall to benefit him. Darth Vader also has a range attack that throws his lightsaber, and let's say if you miss the attack while he's doing it, he doesn't take any damage. That benefits him. He's simply a character that, even though he has terrible mobility, his strengths are what keeps his character at least in this tier. His special has 2 usages that I do not think are that great, but they're there whenever he needs to use them, and they can't come out at a quick enough speed if he has to rely on them. He has a force jump. He could combo in midair. Thanks to the positives, he is good enough to be considered better than the characters below him, but still has some weaknesses that some of the characters below him can take advantage of. Luke Skywalker has quicker moves than Vader, and that's the reason why he's better than Vader at least. Luke has a super jump and a gun. He also has a force pull, and overall, the reason why I would say he's better than some of the characters with lightsabers is because he could pull his opponents while his combo game is quicker than Vader's. So now we have a character that's even more broken than Vader. Alan's a character that seems to be very average at best, as he has a super jump, his range attacks are right, charged or no charge. His melee attacks are not that strong, but they come out fast enough. It's what really carries his character is his special. If land right, can kill at very high health. Next up is Zeb. Is very interesting in this game. I like how unsettling his moveset is. His range attack is what carries his character up here though. It comes out quick, which means the range attack can stun your characters in the air for a longer period of time. And Zeb also has ways to set it up where the character can be up in the air for a long period of time, just like a lot of the characters below him. Zeb's range attack is not the only thing he has though. Melee attacks are not always quick, but some of the attacks are quick, so you can tack on damage if the range attack isn't cutting out. He has a super jump, he could wall crawl. His special is a power up special, and he gets to unlock new abilities from it, which is also very good for versatility. This character has a lot of great things going for him, but there's even more broken characters than him that I haven't mentioned so far. Next up is Jasmine. Her range attack is so good, and I would say it's even better than Aladdin's, although Aladdin's is just alright. But comparing Aladdin to Jasmine, even though Aladdin's special does a lot more damage to their opponent, Jasmine's special locks the character into it, which is a lot better. Though Jasmine's special isn't as powerful as Lan's, Jasmine has a better time of landing it compared to Lan. Jasmine has a super jump, has some powerful melee attacks, and they come out quick enough. It's good charged and not fully charged. All of her moves are useful, and she's the real deal. Also, that ground pound is really good if your opponent is allergic to sand. Next up is Woody, a character that I don't know realistically how good they are, as a lot of their moves are very, very basic. However, the damage output, the amount that you could easily equip with their skill tree, they can do surprisingly well compared to some of the stronger characters in this game, simply just by being good. Their range attack stuns, even though there's nothing very special about the range attack, it still can win the game. And their moves come out quick enough where they can consistently hit. All the characters' moves are useful despite being very limited, and sometimes just having a good enough projectile, a good enough approach game, and just being good overall can put you up this high. I'll talk about another character very similar to Woody that is actually a bit better, I would say, but Woody is still good regardless of where I put him. Next up is Groot. Now, this character is very interesting because he has a good range attack. However, let's say if he were to miss with the range attack, which is a move that hits you straight up and knocks you into the air, such as seen here, the problem is you could get out of it mid-air after getting hit, and then you could almost freely punish him. And the problem with that is that's not good for Groot. He could get traded out from that. Your opponent might have an advantage. That's pretty bad, and that has to be his best thing about him. But though his damage output overall is good, most of the hits come out very slow. So what keeps this character this high, other than that amazing reputation we've seen from online and from other places? What keeps this character up here? Well, he does have useful things for this character specifically. Like I said before, that range attack can be bad for him considering you get traded from landing your own hits. If you were to dodge the range attack, then that leaves him very vulnerable as well. However, he has his special, which although you could easily avoid, it does equip him with a shield. Although it's not a long-lasting shield, as once you break it one time it goes away, which is bad for him. He can bring up the shield for as long as he can if he holds the block button. So training with this character may not be all bad considering he has that. Special is easy to avoid, but if he lands it somehow, it does do good damage. His melee attacks are slow, but they also do good damage, and his counter attacks do good damage as well. He doesn't have a super jump, but he can wall crawl, and he might even have, although it's hard to tell, he might even have a chain grab from his own ground pound, because he's able to react quick enough after doing it. Yes, his ground pound might actually be useful. Overall, this character has such a reputation of being very, very broken, that though I would like to think of him very highly, and I can't help but think of highly about this character because of that, it's hard to say how good he is. But if you were to play perfect or play with very hesitation and precision, I could see you doing surprisingly well. But there's simply more broken characters compared to Groot that would easily give him a run for his money. Next up is Gamora, a character that has everything good about her. All of her moves are useful just like Groot's, except a lot of her attacks aren't slow and vulnerable. Her range attack on its own is not impressive compared to a lot of the characters below her. That charged up range attack is very, very good. It's able to home in on the opponent when let go, and it does a lot of damage and hit stun. Her melee attacks up close are quick enough. Her melee attacks damage output is alright overall. And her special is not only a power up, but it also has some other added attacks to it. Overall, her damage output and her amazing range attack fully charged is what keeps her this high. Next up is Judy Hopps. This character has one of the best super jumps in the game, if not the best. It goes up really high. Her melee attacks are quick enough and do good enough damage. And a character with a great super jump with a dash attack is very useful and when you don't have a projectile. Unless if you're thinking about the projectile she has with her special, which can honestly help her win games. Even though the move can have the ability to miss as soon as you press the button, as it takes a few frames for it to come out. The move does have excellent reward. Let's say if you have two available, just when the first one's about to run out, you could shoot the other one again, and it'll reset the timer, and you could consistently hit them as the opponent is stunned by that move. You could kill your opponent at maximum health because of that. Her special is what keeps her up this high. And let's say your opponent doesn't give you enough time to land the move. Maybe you could go for a grab, and once you get that grab, then it's game over because you get a free hit after that. Next up is Rocket Raccoon. This character doesn't have that much going on for them. Special does good enough damage, but it can be easily avoided. His melee attack on its own is a dash attack, which is usually not that good for characters. At least his counter's good. But what keeps his character up this high is his very useful projectile. His guns. They're extremely good. They don't stun on the ground, but all you need to do is just charge up the range attack and you could easily give your opponent a lot of damage and get them to low health and even kill from that. Overall, what carries this character is his amazing gun usage in this game. Next up is Phineas. This character has one thing going for him, but that projectile is so quick and so easy to be spammable. Can honestly be one of the most frustrating characters if your character cannot do much against them. This character, thanks to his projectile and his melee attack, even though his melee attack on its own is not very good as it's another dash attack, both of those moves can actually chain grab. Not only does he have a great move on its own, but this character can kill up close even if you were to avoid his broken projectile. Even though this character has limited usage on his moves, it's literally that one move that carries this character up here. And Phineas and Rocket Raccoon both have super jumps, at least, though Rocket's is higher. Phineas might have better mobility than characters like Vanellope and Lone Ranger. Next up are the two Inside Out characters. They're very similar to each other, but what makes them better than Anger, at least, is their mobility. Not only that, but it's way easier to land. Sadness's and Disgust's specials are very similar to each other. Their normal range attack's alright, but their charged range attack is really strong. Their combo game isn't that great, and in fact I would prefer Disgust's combo game, as it takes time for Sadness's melee attacks to come out. None of these two characters have super jumps, just like Anger, but literally what carries these characters are their way better mobility, simply by having better rolls. Even though Sadness's roll is very comical, it still comes out quickly. Now the reason why I would say Sadness is better than Disgust, the fully charged range attack for Sadness sends your opponent up on the air, which means your opponent has less of a chance of dodging the next attack. And Sadness can set up for multiple attacks because of that, compared to Disgust, which just sends them forward when fully charged. Overall, these two characters are really good despite seemingly relying on one good thing about them, although that one thing is surprisingly beneficial to them. Next up is Jessie. Yes, Jessie, even though she's similar to the bone to Woody, the reason why she's up this high, she has a chain grab on certain characters. That alone, I believe, is the reason why Jessie is up here. And even though it works on only certain characters, I thought Woody was really good. But the fact that Jessie has something that Woody doesn't have, I think Jessie's character as a whole honestly works surprisingly well. And that one little thing, even though it's very small, does add a lot to her simplistic but effective gameplay. Next up is Kylo Ren. This character has some good aggression to him. Has a force pull, has a super jump, and his melee combos are fantastic. Although his dash attack is not good for damage, it's good for mobility at least. The special isn't very good for player versus player combat though. It's only good for running away. And if it wasn't for that, I think this character would be a lot better than this. I will say Anakin has a better special compared to Kylo, and that's the reason why he's up here. He's pretty much very similar to Kylo, except Anakin has a better special. But yeah, they both have super jumps, both can force pull, have quick melee attacks, they're both aggressive, and they both can combo very well on the ground and in the air. Next up is Fear. The reason why I would put Fear up this high, Fear has probably the fastest running speed in the game, and compared to a lot of the grounded characters that are really broken in this game, Fear can honestly avoid a lot of the average and broken characters' projectiles because of that, if he plays it right. And his projectile is also really good. Fear has a similar special to Anger's, where he could run away from it after landing it, or he could take on damage from it. I will say his melee attack might be the best out of the group, as it comes out quick and might have better combo potential compared to Disgust's. Really great combination, such as his rolls and running. He has a better melee attack, and his specials versatile just like Anger's. Fear simply has it made for him. Fear doesn't have that much to fear at all in this game. Next up is Jack Skellington. Now, this might be a character Fear might actually fear though. Not only because Jack has a surprisingly good enough range attack for a 1.0 character, he also has health regeneration, which is the reason why he's really high up here. Not only that, even though his melee attack isn't that great, it can be useful as it doesn't come out that slow compared to Sully's at least. Also, Jack Skellington has a super jump, and if it wasn't for that health regeneration, this character would be way lower. But simply having health regeneration and a good enough projectile would bring this character up this high. Next up is Davy Jones. What makes him better than Jack Skellington, his melee attacks being better, and he could block projectiles with his sword. His flintlock gun is slower compared to the other Pirates characters. It could still be useful at times. Overall, I would say he's better than Jack simply because Davy gets more off of all of his moves. Olaf has a lot of great things about him, as all of his moves are useful. His range attack can be very versatile, and his charge range attack can stun characters. His charge range attack can also lead to chain grabs, possibly. He also has a move that can help him with mobility when he holds the melee attack. His melee attacks are a little bit slow, but can do alright damage. And his special can kill early when landed properly, and it doesn't even come out that slow. Overall, this character has every amount of his moves to be useful, and he could possibly kill people at maximum health. Next up is Dory. Just like Olaf, they both have super jumps. Dory's melee attacks are not that great, just like Nemo's. But what really helps these two characters out is their range attack. As if you time it right, you could do a lot with this annoying range attack, especially fully charged. Even though this character can struggle against more mobile characters, what carries this character up here is that strong special. It can kill at very high health, and that one thing is what carries this character up this high. Next up is Boba Fett. Boba can fly, he has a shooting projectile, he can grapple people, which is basically pull opponents closer to him for his melee attacks or whatever other attack, and his special does come out fast enough, even though it doesn't do a lot of damage. It does have a bit of a higher chance of landing compared to Mulan's. What carries his character up this high is his flying abilities, and simply having everything to be useful for him. Next up is Ultron. He can pull people in to attack them. His range attack is usable, but it's kind of limited due to it only hitting a certain way. You can't aim it, but it does have good enough range and have a better chance of landing compared to Vanilla Bees and Ralph's. His melee attacks are okay with damage and speed. And his special is only good if your opponent is a grounded character with not much usage with their moves. Overall, what carries his character over to being better than Boba Fett is his health regeneration. Next up is Merida. Merida is a character who has some very unique usages with her arrow, and her melee attacks come out quick enough and do some good enough damage. Her arrows do good enough stunning, and her charge range attack freezes your opponent. Literally. Her special is quite hard to land, but it's still usable, and this character might also have a chain grab to them. Overall, this character doesn't have a bad thing about them really. Even if the character does have flaws, sometimes having a good enough projectile can put you up this high. Next up is Finn. He has a lot of usage with his guns, and they do a lot of damage, and they come out really quick. His special is similar to Han Solo's, so having a quick projectile compared to Han's is very good for him. His melee attacks don't do a lot of good damage, but they come out quick enough. Overall, this character is carried by his high amount of ammo he carries along with him. The final character we talk about in the mid tiers is none other than Captain America himself. He's a character that has good aggression to him. His projectile is good. His melee attacks do good enough damage and come out quick enough. And his special can also be very versatile as well. He can also block certain projectiles to his shield. So overall, this character has a lot going for him, while also doing good damage and being very versatile amongst the better group of characters. So that's it, everyone. That's all the mid tiers I talked about in this video, and we will continue going over even more broken characters, and they seem to have even better chances of being a much stronger threat than these characters we talked about. And I am done for today. I hope you had a great time in seeing how these other characters were in terms of how strong they were. Alright, take care everyone.